Rahul Gandhi is in Germany on a 4-day trip, and he's made a lot of comments at a speech which has made headlines over here. The first one was on an analogy he made using ISIS. Let's listen to what he said, how the BJP responded. We'll debate that first and then move on to his remarks on lynching later on.
It's very dangerous in the 21st century to exclude people. And I want to give you a small example. A strong example, but a small, strong example. The United States attacked Iraq in 2003. And you got an insurgency that fought the United States and caused massive casualties to the Americans. It didn't end there. That insurgency slowly entered empty spaces. It entered the empty space in Iraq. It entered the empty space in Syria. And then it connected with the global internet to form the horrific idea called ISIS. I'm explaining this because if you don't give people a vision in the 21st century, somebody else will give them one. And that is the real risk of excluding large numbers of people from our development processes. Every country faces this risk.
When you denigrate this country, when you denigrate not only the policies in a wrong way, but when you speak against the culture of this great country, and when you give justification to terrorism, it is a serious issue.
All right, so that is the BJP response. Rahul Gandhi there referring to ISIS and the way terrorist ideologies can be formed in this country on the basis of denigrating India's minorities. Joining us to look at this, Praveen Chakravarti, Chairman of the Data Analytics Department of the Congress Party. Raghav Avasthi, the lawyer and RSS member, with me in the studio. KC Singh, former Secretary, External Affairs Ministry, also with us. Sabah Naqvi, the senior journalist, and I'll be also joined by Michael Kugelman, the Deputy Director of the Asia Program at the Wilson Center, to look at the ISIS aspect of all of this. But as far as the BJP is concerned, it's all politics in terms of the remarks made by Mr. Rahul Gandhi. So, Praveen, let me come to you first by asking you, the BJP says that Rahul Gandhi denigrated India's minorities by bringing up this analogy of ISIS. How do you respond?
I don't know where one would draw that conclusion from if one heard Mr. Gandhi's speech yesterday. It was fairly clear and evident that Mr. Gandhi was making a diagnosis of what he thought was the origins of ISIS, and he talked. Its larger point was about social mobility, social exclusion, and what some of the ramifications that it can lead to. So there was a very clear articulation of what he thought was a sociological phenomenon that can potentially lead to insurgent groups such as the ISIS. And so that was a diagnosis that he made, and he made a prognosis saying this could potentially lead to this if we don't take care of such factors. So I don't understand where the question of India's minorities or any such thing comes. If anything, it was a very crystal clear warning for inclusion and for being very, very careful and cautious about excluding large groups of people in the development process. So the underlying theme was social mobility.
But the underlying theme was India, wasn't it?
If you heard the beginning of the speech,
but
the
Praveen,
entire speech
the underlying
was about
theme was
social
India,
mobility.
right? The underlying theme was India, right? He was talking about India. He was talking about the possibility of terrorist ideologies coming into our social milieu on the basis of unemployment, on the basis of exclusion of minorities. In this case, on the basis of exclusion of minorities. So it's not as if he was talking about a broader concept, he was linking it to India.
That is certainly right. So the social mobility, this is not new. I mean, first, there is a lot of research, there's a lot of scholarly work that talks about sociological origins of such insurgencies.
Okay, Praveen, I will come to that. We'll come to the ISIS aspect of this. I just want to discuss the politics. And I wanted to bring in Raghav over here.
I want to also respond to what
Rahul
go ahead.
Said. The point...
I think Rahul Gandhi's ISIS analogy is misplaced, and it betrays his rather infantile understanding of the ISIS phenomenon. And I would like to ask Mr. Chakravarti this question, one particular question. There is a minority in Iraq which is also found in Turkey, and they are known as the Kurds. Now, the Kurdish Peshmerga have been one of the foremost bulwarks against the spread of ISIS and its terrorist ideology. Everybody knows what the ISIS does. They behead people and then they keep sex slaves and so on and so forth. So why is it that the Kurds who were gassed by Saddam Hussein, if Rahul Gandhi's analysis is correct, then the Kurds should have been the first ones to, become terrorists, but the Kurds have not become terrorists. So I think if this is the kind of understanding that Rahul Gandhi has of an ideology like ISIS, which has spawned lone wolf attacks around the world, and some of these lone wolves are not even uneducated or unemployed, and let alone ISIS. I mean, even if you examine the top brass of the Al-Qaeda, you have people like Ayman and al-Zawahiri, who was a doctor. Osama bin Laden himself was a qualified engineer. So I think Rahul Gandhi should spare us his rantings of what terrorism and ISIS are all about. I mean, it's very clear that he doesn't understand any of this. And if this is how he is going to tackle terrorism in this country with this, pseudo-Marxist analysis, then I fear for the future of this country, given that he now has started fancying himself as a Prime Minister in the future.
Praveen, I know you'll want to answer, but give me a moment. I'll come back to you in a while. Mr. K.C. Singh, at the larger issue of talking about terrorism in India by bringing about the analogy of ISIS, do you believe any senior political leader in our country should be doing this, or do you believe, as some in the BJP do, that it insults our country, denigrates our country, and therefore it shouldn't be done?
That's a very valid question you raise, whether we should leave politics at the where the oceans and the boundaries, oceans start and the boundaries end, and abroad we should all be Indians. After all, Mr. Vajpayee, who's just passed away, was sent by Narasimha Rao to the UN Human Rights Council, the then commission, because those differences, domestic differences, were never taken abroad. But who began it? It began with Prime Minister Narendra Modi using the diaspora functions to tilt at opposition back home. So he would do it in New York, he would do it wherever he got an opportunity, and then it became even Stevens, where Congress started going after him when he was abroad, which was again very exceptional. When a Prime Minister is touring abroad, the opposition then started attacking him for anything which he did. And this is now logically taken to when an opposition leader goes abroad, he takes domestic issues there, uses the fake sort of context of some university students who don't shoot back, and he starts then holding forth. So first is this question of again creating a consensus that we will not carry our differences abroad. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. Now, second thing is the content of it. Yet content is obviously this typical Rahul Gandhi naivish logic leading one thing to another. Now, he's confused Zarqawi and Al-Qaeda in Iraq, which was created by the US attack, with the Baghdadi and ISIS. Baghdadi and ISIS are a result of Arab Spring, which started in Damascus, which began in Tunisia, went to Libya, went to Egypt. Dictators were getting overthrown, and that is where ISIS was born. Yes, there were remnants from the Zarqawi Al-Qaeda network anyway. That's a default position. But he is not able to link up one and the other. He links everything to the US attack. US managed to eliminate Zarqawi,
so a factual inaccuracy,
the remnants, and managed to win back the Sunnis, and win back the Sunnis in the heartland. And therefore, for a while, there was stability if the Arab Spring hadn't come.
Sabha, let me ask you this. Even if you discard the specifics for a moment and the analogies, details that he shared, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that that's the right thing to do, I just find that in our context, in the Indian context, when we are so alert to the potential threat of terror groups rising and so alert to the possibility of ISIS rising, a gross generalization, in fact, doesn't reflect the truth in India. Yes, we have problems of unemployment. Yes, we've got problems of marginalization. But to make that leap and connect it to ISIS or terrorist ideologies, how is that a reality in our context?
So, first of all, when I heard that my good friend Sambit Patra had attacked Mr. Gandhi, I was all ready to defend Mr. Gandhi, and I went and I examined the speech and I watched it once more and I tried to make sense of it. it was actually a lot of nonsense. Let's be honest. Let's say this up front. I just couldn't get it if Rahul Gandhi had said that joblessness leads to violence, where young men who are unemployed join cow protection brigades, and because, you know, gaushalas are getting some amount of money, then I would have understood some logic. I don't understand what he was trying to say. I really wanted to understand this. I said, did I miss a point here? And I know for a fact, I mean, the founder of ISIS, this linked to US action in that area, Osama bin Laden was a millionaire who went from Saudi Arabia to fight a jihad. So even the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, all of the, Taliban is different, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Baghdadi was imprisoned by Americans. He comes out. It's to do with Saudi influence in the region. It's to do with a lot of things, and the Americans are at the heart of it. So I'll just supplement what Casey is saying. I think we must reinforce, I would always reinforce that, American actions in that part. So I think so to link up our demonetization and joblessness with what has happened.
Okay, so that Sabha is actually the next part of what he's spoken about.
Dictatorships is I think just poor. It's a poor form.
Okay,
you know,
all right.
Exactly
Just
what I said.
one moment.
I never thought I would live to see this day, but I would agree with
Sabha,
Sabha.
one second. The reason I'm interrupting is because I want to play out what he had to say. Praveen,
I think
yeah, go ahead briefly, Praveen. Yes.
I mean, I think we're clutching at straws here. This is a 16-minute speech. It started with pre-independence. It started about
who is clutching
mobility.
at straws?
I think the Congress party is clutching at straws.
And it went from one to another. It is somewhat it is extremely naive to kind of reduce that 16-minute speech to saying Mr. Gandhi said that joblessness and demonetization will create an ISIS in India. I mean, that is complete reductionism.
Why did he mention this?
Why would he mention this?
Look at the speech.
I want to make a point.
Praveen, the first one. One second, can I please jump in and ask a question? Everybody seems to want to ask a question on my show.
Allow me one point.
Sabha, hold on. Can I also sort of come in over here and ask a question? I promise you I'll come to you next.
I can't hear a thing.
All right. No, Praveen, the point I don't understand. How would you dispute what Mr. K.C. Singh is saying? It appears that Rahul Gandhi has mixed up ISIS with Al-Qaeda. The analogy he has made, A, is factually incorrect, and B, as some would argue, doesn't even apply to the Indian context. So why would he talk about it?
No, I mean, Vishnu, that's exactly my point here. Don't be reductionist in your approach in drawing conclusions. What was the broad theme? Did it not start from pre-independence India? Did it not talk about social mobility? Did it not talk about examples from the Vietnam War? Did it not talk about examples in Iraq? And then did it not say that perhaps we are going through a similar situation in India where we run the risk of excluding large communities? Why? It's not that hard. I'm sure all the people in the panel are not that naive to reduce this to something as simple as joblessness and demonetization leads to ISIS.
All right. I know Raghav and Sabha have something to say. There'll be more to say. I want to play out the next part of what Rahul Gandhi had to say, where he spoke about lynching and the linkages which he made between lynching in India and what he believed caused it.
A couple of years back, the Prime Minister demonetized the Indian economy. And he destroyed the cash flows of all these small and medium businesses. Millions and millions and millions of people who worked in the informal sector were left unemployed. They imposed a badly conceptualized, badly thought through, badly implemented goods and services tax, which complicated the lives of these small and medium businesses. And large numbers of people who worked in these businesses were forced back to the villages. And these three things that the government has done has made India angry. When you hear about lynchings in India, when you hear about attacks on Dalits in India, when you hear about attacks on minorities in India, that's the reason for it.
ब्रूकिंग रिपोर्ट्स थोड़ा पढ़ के आइए राहुल जी. आप तो विदेश में जाके भाषण करते हैं, कम से कम ये रिपोर्ट्स तो पढ़ के जाइए. When we have a success story of India under the leadership and prime ministership of Mr. Narendra Modi, your frustration stemming out of the sense of entitlement of Gandhi family is quite understandable.
No, but you have to admit, Raghav, that rejoinder by Sambit was not much of a rejoinder.
Now let me speak.
No, but you see, the point is this. I'm sure you would criticize Rahul Gandhi on linking unemployment with lynching, right? I'm sure you would do that.
Yes,
but my point is, why would you not therefore answer basic questions linked to the fact that unemployment is a reality in our country? 2 crore jobs per year hasn't happened.
I think Rahul Gandhi ji, the first thing that Rahul Gandhi ji needs to do, there is a book known as The History of...
Raghav, before you agree with me too much, I believe cow protection
let me finish my point. Let me finish my point.
Half a second, I'll come to you
This
next.
is in all probability the last time it has happened, the first and last time.
I mean, I want to state that.
So, Rahul Gandhi ji should read Bertrand Russell's History of Western Philosophy and read the section on David Hume. Because then he would understand that just because there are two phenomena that are taking place together, it does not mean that there is a causal connection between the two. Since for the simple reason that incidents like Khairlanje and Mirchpur and the 1984 riots took place when the Congress party was in power. So either Rahul Gandhi is saying that the employment situation in the country was really bad when all of these incidents happened, or his analysis is, to put it mildly, really flawed. So that's the simple point. And as far as this lynching phenomenon is concerned, there is absolutely no scientific evidence whatsoever that there has been a rise in these lynching incidents ever since the BJP came to power. And as far as the India-Smin report is concerned, which is cited repeatedly by Congress Party PR managers, it is amply clear that the said report is flawed. It is based on
one second. Let's talk about lynching. Sabha, go ahead with what you're trying to say.
3 English language newspapers as cited by somebody from the organization.
Let's talk about the lynching comments. Sabha, go ahead.
Can I contest? I think Vishnu, your own channel has done wonderful documentaries about how a lot of the cow protection is about extortion. I'm telling you about NDTV's own work. Very, very fine reporting you have done about the extortion end, which is a form of employment. Extortion is also... Anyway, I don't want to get that. Let's stick with Rahul. I want to say to the Congress person, I'm not criticizing. I completely understand you're saying it's 16 minutes and you're taking the sense out. He was, but the point is, as a political leader who is touching on sensitive issues, he has to give one straightforward, uncomplicated message. He has to learn that. He's not talking like stream of consciousness to a university platform. I mean, that is not done if you're going to lead a party in an election year. And I think Rahul has improved very well. His delivery was very good. But for God's sake, this is how the BJP prepares its speeches. They give news points. They don't give you something which I am trying to figure out. As an experienced journalist, भाई ये क्या बोल रहे हैं आज इनकी बात हम कैसे समझे? That's all I'm saying.
Praveen, would you like to respond to this?
As a goodwill gesture, I'm saying.
As the chairman of the data analytics department of the Congress party, somebody who works on the basis of data, do you believe that Rahul Gandhi's address in Germany was a bit undercooked? That whether it was lynching or ISIS, it wasn't specific enough?
No. Whoever gave that unsolicited piece of advice for Mr. Gandhi, we appreciate that gesture, and we'll take that into account. But the simple point is, I think this whole thing is quite farcical. This debate. I think somehow it gives me the sense we've lost this sense of nuance. We first have to get back and understand that there are sociological, anthropological explanations for various phenomena in society, and that is precisely what Mr. Gandhi was trying to do. Now we can debate, we can absolutely open to debating whether his version of the explanation is right, wrong, all of that. But to argue that this does not make, to argue, to reduce his entire speech and then to argue that it did not make sense is just quite farcical. I completely understand the BJP
can you as a data person
claim of correlation is not causation. I understand all of that.
Some statistical correlation between unemployment and lynching. Yes, we may all believe that happens. We may all identify frustrated people who turn to crime. But on what basis has Rahul Gandhi made this point?
Not all criminals are frustrated people.
What is the statistical? What is the link?
The argument is very clear. The argument is very clear.
Motivated by ideology.
Praveen, go ahead.
He's talked about anger. He's talked about rising anger in society. See, the argument is very clear and it's very logical. He talked about rising anger in society, and rising anger is caused by various things: unemployment, injustice, lack of opportunities for upward mobility. And he said this anger can manifest itself in many forms and many ways. And one of them happens to be lynching. There are other forms. And he said this was anger that was rising in society. And I think there are lots of empirical evidence, just going by analyzing news media reports over the last 3 years, that there is rising anger in society and hate crime has certainly increased. So I don't think that's
just one short rejoinder, won't take more than 20 seconds. I think if lack of mobility, as Mr. Chakravarti puts it, were to be a cause for anger and then terrorism, then the entire second rung leadership of the Congress party, and for them opportunities to rise in the party have been nixed just by the fact that there is a Gandhi at the helm. They should all turn to terrorism first. So I think this argument of lack of social mobility and how it leads to terrorism, I think it's utterly misplaced. I think it is utterly misplaced. And just the fact that Rahul Gandhi should choose to make such points at a conference which is happening in Germany, I think it like I said, it betrays an infantile understanding of what terrorism is.
But there were lots of other points which he actually spoke about as well. Mr. K.C. Singh, one of the issues that Rahul Gandhi did speak about was the status of women in India, the condition of women in India, attacks on women and children in our country. And I think it's a bit, I'm not sure it's necessarily correct to say that, look, let's not talk outside our borders.
Vishnu, I want to add, Vishnu, I want to add, in the context of the women question, in fact, if you notice, when the person who asked the question said, there was a recent Reuters piece that said India is the worst place for women, he actually called out and said, no, I do not believe that is true. So there you go. So
fair enough. But I'm actually trying to look at it from the opposite perspective. Mr. K.C. Singh, the fact of the matter is that the status of women, the condition of women in India, attacks on women is an international issue. Isn't it a bit rich for the BJP or anyone to believe that a political leader raising this issue abroad is actually harming us more than is unnecessarily harming us? The entire world knows about how this is a problem. So him reinforcing a reality, how is that something that's unacceptable?
Look, I said it before, there are platforms and platforms. Aren't there platforms available in India? He's a member of parliament. You raise it here and raise it as vociferously as you want. If you're going and addressing audiences abroad, it shouldn't be a method of, in a very soft way, of just conducting, as somebody said, a stream of consciousness. Now you take a simple thing. Nowhere in the world poverty has been equated with terrorism. You take Nepal. Nepal per capita is much lower than Pakistan, and yet you don't have terrorism there. Saudi Arabia, the font from where Wahhabi ideology flows, has one of the highest per capitas in the world. So, there's no correlationship there. So I think what Rahul is doing is, great leaders like Bill Clinton and all are able to take complex issues and explain them in very simple ways. Now, what he does is, in trying to simplify issues, he gets almost naive, where there's no connection between them. He should not try philosophizing
you disagree
and
with
getting into issues which he has not fully ingested and studied. He has to have a very simple, to-the-point address and then choose the right platform.
All right,
Why
Praveen,
go to Germany to discuss
what's
women?
not true, Praveen? Go
Discuss
ahead.
it in India.
What's not true? Go ahead.
No, that is not true. I simply want to point out,
what is not true?
Take up the Journal of Criminal Justice as a research publication and pour through, there are hundreds of articles, papers, academic papers that talk about how sociological reasons such as poverty, such as lack of opportunity,
okay, let me
just
answer.
Such as
Look,
these,
you've interrupted. I have a right to answer. Let me answer. I've spoken the least. Let me answer 1 second.
So it is not true that there is no correlation.
Let me at least make a point here.
You're talking.
Vishnu, I must respond
Go ahead,
to this.
Mr. K.C. Singh, reply. Yes.
Let me respond to it. Sava, may I just respond to this? Now, Rahul Gandhi takes up GST. It is correct that GST caused unemployment and grave, economic discomfort. But then why is lynching only in Hindi-speaking BJP-run states? It is not there in the rest of India. So was GST's effect only in the Hindi-speaking states? It's a naive argument. There's, it has an impact all over India. It's affected SMEs all over India. You've had SMEs affected in Gujarat towns. But why is it then lynching is only in a specific place? So there are different reasons for different arguments. You can't just pick up arguments, conflate them, and turn them into a bludgeon to beat the government with. There are ways to beat the government. The government is wrong on different things.
No.
But God, for God's sake, give them
I
out
disagree.
by naive argumentation.
The issue of women?
No,
One
again,
second,
I
Praveen.
disagree. This is partial.
Yes,
again,
Praveen,
I disagree.
Praveen,
I disagree
Sabha
with
and
saying
then
because
Gandhi.
this is partial. In fact, if you
What is partial?
Yeah, if you look,
Praveen, I have the greatest sympathy
Mr.
for
Singh,
your
if you look at the
position
whole,
here.
if you read,
One
if you
very
see the
quick
whole
point.
speech,
I just want to make a point. You cannot. You can talk. You can
No,
talk
I-
about sociology and
no,
complex.
I appreciate
He's
your
a politician. He's the leader of a political party. He has, and he knows it's being recorded. These speeches are prepared with a domestic audience in mind. He has to speak to us in simple language. He did a good speech in Parliament. Nobody is saying he's improving his act. But please, you cannot, unless you want to have private tete-a-tetes with students, then shut down the cameras, don't allow it. But this, you cannot, I mean, this is disappointing.
I also,
so
I also
nobody's
actually
attacking you.
No, that's
This is disappointing. This
I also actually wanted to
absolutely Saudi
Sabha,
Arabia.
Sabha, one moment.
And,
Sabha, 1 second.
It's the richest country in the world.
Sabha, just 1 second. I
that's
also
all.
wanted to look at a third part of all of this. The imagery associated with Rahul Gandhi in Germany, a lot of people would say, is not something that actually backs him or the Congress party at all. The fact that you had pictures of which now you've got all sorts of cartoons appearing and memes appearing of Rahul Gandhi looking up, looking to the side, the many facets of Rahul Gandhi. This has turned out to be a big joke. These memes have turned out to be a big joke online. Now, in fact, the BJP said even we couldn't resist retweeting this, and they've not said anything further. They've just put those pictures over there. So, Praveen, what exactly was Mr. Gandhi trying to show by looking up, looking to the left, right, and looking down? What was the message there? Because frankly, it's lost to all of us.
You know, a little bit of fun is not going to do any harm to anybody. Okay, so there were also pictures of, I think, him ordering a Subway sandwich. I think there were pictures of him
because somebody
taking,
offered him free juice. An Indian person, right?
So there were serious pictures. There were fun pictures.
Those were fun pictures.
So I think, I mean, again, I understand. I understand you need to hold a news debate every night, and so you need to pick on something. But let's
the
not
mirth should not be
overanalyze
unintentional. The mirth should be intentional and not unintentional, right? As far as these pictures are concerned, they are unintentionally funny. And the one big takeaway that I have from them, I mean, Rahul Gandhi ji would have made an excellent print model. I mean, he should have tried it during his salad days. I think he's too old to be one now, but he would have done very well. And these pictures, they are unintentionally funny. He seems to be lost in his own world.
How would you look at this?
His eyes are all glassy. What's he doing?
Is it rude for the BJP to have retweeted these pictures and basically saying that even we couldn't resist retweeting this? What was the point of these images? Was it just general banter or mirth, as the Congress party suggests?
Has to be intentional.
I think I would, I find the attacks on Rahul. Vishnu, let's look at the reality today. If Rahul Gandhi makes a sensible speech, which doesn't, it will not be carried. Let's face it, only Prime Minister Modi is overwhelmingly carried day in and day out by most of the media outlets. Okay, if Rahul Gandhi, it would not be carried. Now, so he goes and makes bloopers, and we all tear him apart. So I'm against this, whether he looks left or right. I think there's a level of we all go too far in pillaring Rahul Gandhi. He's completely entitled to look left, right, but he is a public figure, and this is going to happen to him, and he needs to be very, very careful about this speech was really disappointing at a time, like I repeatedly say. So there's a real dilemma. Rahul must recognize that. He should realize that he's not going to get coverage unless he gives good news points.
Oh my God.
All right, and Praveen, my question is this. Rahul's speech was supposed to start
by the media.
Rahul's speech was supposed to start at 9:30 tonight. It's not started as yet. despite your tweeting about it all day? Is that delayed? Is there a problem there? And is he going to come out with specific points in the rest of his talks, specific to India in an election year?
No, see, Vishnu, I think let's all kind of, like I said, not over-analyze this beyond a point that makes us look rather silly. I think the speech had a certain context. The journey in Germany has a certain context. He's posted pictures of various things that he's doing.
Right.
There was some serious talk. There was even a hug that a person in the audience wanted, which he gladly gave. Now, are we going to now analyze the position of his hug and then make some comments about it, using some adjectives that the BJP spokesman seems very fond of using? I mean, so I think we look silly ourselves. I think I've received a lot of unsolicited kind of feedback for Mr. Gandhi from one of your other journalist panelists. So we'll take all of this. Mr. Gandhi knows the audience that he's addressing. He's got points that he's prepared. He actually is extremely well read. This I know for a fact. So there is a certain logic in which he approaches these things, and let's just leave it at that.
All right, well, let's leave it at that. Let's see what Rahul Gandhi actually has to say going forward. We expect that speech in Germany.
I mean, the Congress
Yes.
should learn a little bit of humility, you know.
Well, let's see what he actually has to say.
They're hostile towards Savaji.
Praveen needs to
Savaji
defend,
herself sounds like an indulgent aunt who's unwilling to, you know,
all right,
she's willing to
you
overlook
and Sabah can have your
deficiencies.
fight on the sidelines of this program on another occasion. I'm going to take a short break. Hopefully, we get an update on what's happening in Germany and Rahul Gandhi's latest address there.